Okay, it is 4 o'clock, and I will call the regular scheduled meeting of the Salina City Commission for Monday, February 9th to order. I will first look to staff for confirmation that the Kansas Open Meeting Act required notice has been properly provided.
Yes.
Thank you. May we have roll call?
Mayor Hoppick.
Here.
Commissioner Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Ivey.
Here.
Commissioner Lankowitz.
Here.
Commissioner Remp.
Here.
Thank you. Will those who are able please stand for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, that will bring us to public hearings and items for a certain time.
Item 3.1, conduct a public hearing on and consider approval of resolution number 26-8332, relocating the name of Earl J. Bondy Baseball Complex to ball fields number 1 and 2 at the Berkley Family Recreational Area.
Okay, I will open the public hearing at this time. Mr. Hammond.
Thank you, Mayor Hoppick, Commissioners. Jeff Hammond, Parks and Recreation Director. Before you today to bring forth the first of two naming initiatives for your consideration. Wanted to give you a brief summary of the municipal facility naming guidelines. The current guidelines were approved by the City Commission in October of 2017. They provide clear guidance for naming of a facility, recognizes contributing people or organizations, people of significance, local landmarks, etc. City Commission reserves the right to address naming of municipal facilities. Facilities include property, plazas, parks, ball fields, buildings, portion of buildings, bridges, parking lots, physical structures or components contained therein. The city has to own that facility, or it has to have a naming right, or it has retained naming rights for that potential naming. Some policies inherent in the guidelines. Municipal naming a municipal naming may be named at any time as established by the City Commission. And also can be removed. A naming can be also removed by the City Commission. A municipal facility may be designed as a qualified municipal facility, which is something that we did in January 12th for the dog park space, which I'll talk about later. Naming petitions may be required, such as with an honorary naming. Public notification of meetings are required, and public involvement is encouraged. Usually, there is an associated board that reviews the request prior to coming to the City Commission. Some of the naming options are municipal naming, philanthropic naming, landmark naming, commercial naming, and honorary naming. No person or entity shall be considered for the naming of more than one municipal facility. And lastly, physical signage shall be approved by the City Commission. The design of the signage will incorporate or consider scale, aesthetics, costs, installation, zoning and building codes, etc. So there's 5 naming steps in the naming process, which I outlined in the report, and I'll go through those as I've done so for the purpose of this naming initiative. The initiative is based on a letter received to city staff, and those people are in attendance today, and they can talk about this a little more in detail, about a request to relocate a currently named facility, which is just south of Sunset Park. It's Earl J. Bondy Baseball Complex, which was named in 1998 for those fields there. And the request was to relocate that name, Earl J. Bondy, to a more prominent location, to a more higher use location. And that would be a request to go to somewhere at Berkley Family Recreational Area. All fields, except there are 4 fields that are not named at Berkley Family Recreational Area. As you know, there are several names there we've talked about in the past. Matson Field, Dean Evans Stadium, Pestinger Family Stadium, Wilbur Field, Roger Wilbur Field. There are 4 fields that are not named are fields 1, 2, and 3, and 4, which are in between Matson Field and Pestinger Family Stadium. So with that request, we started following the process. We met with Mr. Brittingham and Harold Bichard, who provided that letter to meet on site at Berkley Family Recreational Area. We toured fields 1 and 2 at Berkley Family and found a location that could accommodate the naming marker that is on that first page of the staff report. That is currently at those fields south of Sunset Park, and we would relocate it at a mutually agreed upon space at Berkley Family Recreational Area. Going through the steps, step 1 was back in 2019, all of Berkley Family Recreational Area was designated as a eligible facility to be named. That was when we were doing Dean Evans renovations, or just before that. Step 2, that application was provided to the city clerk. The city clerk compares that request or that application to the municipal naming guidelines, which is also provided in your packet. The guidelines are. And then they provide a verification that it is compliant with the municipal naming guidelines. That verification from the city clerk is also provided in your documents in your packet. Step 3 was at a applicable board, and that was at the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and that was completed January 21st. We requested a recommendation from the board to move this along to the City Commission. The Parks and Rec Advisory Board voted 4-0 to approve the measure or approve the recommendation to bring it before the City Commission. And as required in the municipal naming guidelines, a public notification was put out 7 days or greater for that Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting, and also for this meeting as well. It was published in a legal way with Salina 311 and also on our website. As you'll see in my comments in the staff report, there was significant, more than normal, public input for the naming initiative at that advisory board. There was Mr. Brittingham and Mr. Bichard, who you'll hear from later, in support of that document or that naming initiative. There was also people that spoke in against that initiative, stating, they feel that the Earl J. Bondy name had a sense of neighborhood pride to the Sunset Park neighborhood. And there was a relatively long history of the naming being there, and it was named that way for at least 25 years. And then the overall question as to whether an existing name facility can be moved. But as I stated earlier, it's within the City Commission's authority to relocate a naming or change naming. Step 4 is what we're doing today. It's a public hearing before the governing body, before the City Commission, and you have some things to review as part of this naming initiative. One is to review the city clerk's verification as to its compliance to the municipal naming guidelines, to review the merits of the naming initiative and supporting documentation as provided, including a review of the existing name and any history involved, and then take action, whether it be to approve, to make amendments, to postpone, or to deny the naming initiative. And then also step 5, which I would like to be able to accomplish today as well, is that signage plan. and is the signage and funding plan and any associated staff resources required to make that happen. And I provide that as well. In the meantime, since this was published, we received, I think you all might have received, the City Commission might have received a letter from Sarah Bondy. Sarah Bondy is the great-granddaughter of, was it great-granddaughter? Granddaughter, I'm sorry. The granddaughter of Earl J. Bondy, and she provided a letter. I believe you should have a copy of that letter. We also have extra copies of that letter. If anybody wants a copy of that, Brett Lamer here, as Parks and Rec staff member, has extra copies of that letter. If anybody, a member of the public, wishes to review that. Her letter, in summary, provides support for the moving of the naming and a request for two park signage markers along Berkley Road. One, and there's two entrances that you can access fields 1 and 2 at Berkley Road, and she requested that park signage naming to understand that it's going to be Earl J. Bondy Fields at Berkley Family Recreational Area. The cost of those are approximately $800 each to reskin or to re-vinyl an existing sign. We have that quote already. We have that ability to move forward with that. The relocation of the naming marker stone that's currently at the field south of Sunset Park would be removed by staff. We have experience in moving granite and things like that, especially with cemetery staff and that kind of thing. Let's see. And those are the 5 steps of the naming process that I reviewed with you. And lastly, the area in between field 1 and 2 that we selected with Mr. Brigham and Mr. Bouchard for the future location of that naming marker for Earl J. Bondy. We have identified that as a concrete improvement. There's a drinking fountain there that is kind of sunk. The concrete's kind of sunk. There's not enough room for ADA accessibility to that drinking fountain. So we identified it as a concrete improvement that we can incorporate a little additional concrete in our future concrete improvement plan for this year, and then be able to move that memorial marker, that naming marker, to that location after that's complete. With that being said, there's some of your actions that you could take today. As I mentioned earlier, you can approve the resolution, which is Resolution 26-8332, for the municipal naming of Earl J. Bondy Fields to be moved to be relocated to fields number 1 and number 2 at Berkley Family Recreational Area. You can approve the resolution with amendments as you deem appropriate. You can postpone this resolution, postpone approving this resolution, or you can vote to deny the naming initiative. Ultimately, the naming would stay where it's at. Staff recommends option number 1, and I would be available for any questions you have for this public hearing. Also, I think as part of the public hearing, Mr. Brigham or Mr. Bouchard would also like to say a few things. So. That's all I have, but I will stand for any questions that you might have.
Questions?
Comments, but no question. I can wait.
Want to wait until we hear from, okay, any questions? Okay, if not, Mr. Bouchard or Mr. Brigham, one of you want to address the commission?
Sure.
Yeah. I saw Mr. Bouchard push you out of your chair there. So.
It's been happening since Marymount days.
Yeah.
Larry Brigham and Ms. Mayor Hoppick and commissioners and city staff. Harold and I worked on this in 1999. So I first met Earl Bondy when I was a senior in high school, and I'll probably date myself now, but that would have been about 1972, and he helped start Babe Ruth baseball program in Salina. So we grew to a very close friendship over the next 20 years until he passed away. A lot of people don't know Earl today because it's been a long time. But one of the passions that Harold and I have is not allowing people to forget about others who have made it possible today for us to have the things we have. And Earl Bondy was definitely one of those. Not only Babe Ruth baseball, he also helped with the Parks and Recreation Department. He scheduled all the games. He was on the State Babe Ruth Board Association for many years. He also scheduled the state high school football playoffs. I would be at his house, and he would be scheduling the football playoffs on a yellow notepad for the Kansas High School Athletic Association. He also ran the bus service for all Sacred Heart kids over at Sacred Heart High School, and I could go on and on about Earl Bondy, a wonderful man, gave of himself to so many, had a big impression on both Harold and I and other people. I know Sarah, his granddaughter, is on I think is listening in on this, and I know the family supports what we're doing. Their concern was making sure that the legacy of their grandfather and father is perpetuated, and that's our intention here today. I appreciate Mr. Hammond's work on Mr. Lamer's meeting with us, and I think we have a really good solution to that. As I mentioned at the previous meeting, if you went down Santa Fe today and asked 10 people where Bondy Fields were, I doubt many people would know. But if you asked where the East Crawford or the Berkley Family Recreation area is, I think most people would know. So to get that granite marker out there to where all kids can see it and all parents can see it and read about Earl Bondy is our goal. And we just appreciate your consideration for doing that, and would answer any questions at this point if you have any.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Brigham? Okay, thank you, Mr. Brigham. Did you want to make a comment before we take comments from the public, or?
Yeah, thank you. I'm actually glad Mr. Brigham had a chance to go before me. I've only lived here 26 years, so obviously I didn't know who Mr. Bondy was. And in my previous meetings on the commission, I knew there was a field there, but that field was kind of invisible in our planning process. It was almost like surplus land. And I didn't realize, that many people used it. And then all of a sudden it becomes... or getting some notoriety when folks who play baseball on Sunday afternoons wanted to get the field improved. They were concerned because Boys and Girls Club wants to build, we'll say, on or near there. So all of a sudden something that was invisible becomes very famous. And not being from here, I'm saying, well, is this like an end around to get, to be expedient for other gains? But I have had the chance to learn about Mr. Bondy. I've spoken with 3 or 4 people who may not have been in his living room while he was scheduling, but knew him very close and up front. And it sounds like if Salina had a Mount Rushmore of early sports people, I guess Dean Evans and Bill Burke and Earl Bondy would be 3 of the 4 of the statues. So it's very easy to see why people would want, his legacy to have more recognition, for a larger number of people. I'll give you the punchline to what I'm saying. I'm in favor of this, but I'm also using this opportunity to spur us to not turn our back on that Sunset Park neighborhood. At one time we came in and took out basketball courts, put in some soccer goals that weren't requested. We removed the tennis courts, but that may have been a life-saving issue. It looks like we're kind of decommissioning that field, although that's not what this does. So we've taken things away from Sunset Park, but we haven't added much in. So I just want us to at some point, put that park, it's going to have to jump some spots over other areas. The field that's there is a great play area. The larger field is dangerous to walk on anywhere within 20 feet of home plate. Even if games aren't going to be played, it needs to be leveled out just from a liability standpoint. And just elevate it, to park or playground status, whatever status it's going to have. And I think we ought to give it a name. I mean, a park that large, whether the neighbors choose a name, whether we do it like we did for the dog park, which is a great name, by the way. We should. I don't want us to just turn our back on that field. But I appreciate the opportunity to have been educated about Mr. Bondy and what he meant. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yeah, and to follow up on Commissioner Davis, one of the questions that was asked from me from someone in the public was kind of to maybe be a little clearer, or is this diamond going away because of the Boys and Girls Club? And that answer was no. This is not what this intends to do. This intends to make the name Bondy more visible to individuals in the community from that standpoint. So put some of those fears to rest, hopefully. So, okay, with that, we will open it up to the public for comments.
My name is John Blanchard. Mayor, Commissioners, I appreciate the opportunity to stand here and show support for the relocation of the naming of Earl J. Bondy Field Complex. Not only do I support Harold and Larry in this initiative, I think a lot of the kids that played Babe Ruth baseball and senior Babe Ruth baseball over the years, especially the ones that played with me, would stand here too if they had the opportunity. I just want to tell you a little bit about what kind of guy I knew as a kid Earl Bondy to be. I met Earl probably first as a 14-year-old in regular Babe Ruth. We played up at St. John's Military School. You could not show up on a day when a game was being played up there and not see Earl Bondy. I don't know if he did everything, but he did a lot. I know he did the scheduling because when I was a coach later on, you kind of then learn what they do. When I was an umpire later, I knew that he did a lot to schedule umpiring and make sure that was all taken care of. And as an umpire, I knew that he kept score all the time. I don't remember another scorekeeper. Earl Bondy was the only scorekeeper. I always tried to stay on Earl's good side because I know he got the stats to the newspaper. So if you wanted to be in the stats in the newspaper, you had to do that. But as far as I appreciate, and it's such a good analogy of we've done such a good job with our youth athletics fields, particularly up at the Ball Diamonds, that it really is a Mount Rushmore of youth baseball. And to not have Earl Bondy on Mount Rushmore would be a tragedy. And I think you guys all know that. So I would just say, like I said before, there's so many kids that grew up with great influences. I had the best senior Babe Ruth coach there was. He just happens to be sitting right back there. So I would just say in closing, I'll leave a couple of seconds on the counter here, but I would just kind of like to maybe plant a seed that if this truly is a Mount Rushmore, I think there's one more bus that most definitely needs to be up there. And I think if you know who that person is. But anyways, he's done a lot for this community as well, but Earl J. Bondy was a one of a kind, and I appreciate you guys considering this.
Thank you.
So you're not going to tell me who I have to do my research?
Okay. Any other comments or from the public? If not, I will at this time close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 26-8332 for the municipal naming of Earl J. Bondy Fields to the fields known as Field Number 1 and Number 2 at Berkley Family Recreational Area in accordance with the municipal facility naming guidelines.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 26-8332 for the municipal naming of Earl J. Bondy Fields to the fields now known as Field Number 1 and Number 2 at Berkley Family Recreational Area in accordance with the municipal facility naming guidelines. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That item passes 5-0. That will bring us to item 3.2.
Item 3.2, conduct a public hearing on and consider approval of resolution number 26-8333, naming the John Parker Jr. Dog Park the parking lot.
Okay, with that, I will open the public hearing. Mr. Hammond.
Thank you again, Mayor, Commissioners. Jeff Hammond, Parks and Recreation Director. I won't go into the details that, as I did before, relating to the municipal facility naming guidelines, but I will get into the steps I've taken thus far. This is a municipal naming. It was a municipal naming request brought by staff, by Parks and Rec staff. We feel we had a named dog park in town, Berkley Park on Markley Road, and we wanted to do the same for this dog park. Let's see, so last year, at the September last year, the dog park that is on 2nd Street, approximately 315 or 315 North 2nd Street, was open to the public. That's a dog park that's near Carver Center. That is also in the same kind of strip of land as the animal shelter. Step one of that process on January 12th was declare the John Parker Jr. Park to be eligible for naming, and that was resolution 26-8326. The resolution is attached for reference. Staff submitted the application to the city clerk's office, and the city clerk issued a verification that it was compliant with the Salina Municipal Facility Naming Guidelines. Step 3 was January 21st in front of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. The Parks and Rec Advisory Board acknowledged the request. There was no public comment relating to the request. The results of what we brought forward was an interesting process. When we opened the dog park September 19th of last year, we did a social media contest to invite the public to provide a list of names of what the dog park could be. We took that list of names, and once in names that were repeated that we gave more votes to, staff looked at that. We provided that list of names to the advisory board last year in December. Had them review those. They suggested that I really at the time asked 2 questions of the advisory board, and this was before step 3 occurred in January. I asked if do you wish for this dog park to be named, and they said yes. And what process would you like to see staff go through to try to get the best name, if you will, of these list of names that were accrued from social media comments and such. They suggested doing a survey or a poll. The next day, I got an email from Salina 311 offering to run that survey or that poll online. That poll for the top 4 names that were from that list of all the names generated from social media were submitted to the survey. There were 7,800 responses to that survey on Salina 311. And then in the staff report, there's a list of, the results of that survey. 44% of all respondents to the survey thought the barking lot was the best name, and we agreed. We like that name a lot. So Parks and Rec Advisory Board voted 4-0 to move forward with that and make a recommendation to the governing body to name that dog park the parking lot. Step 4, we're doing that today, and as before, you're looking at the verification to the compliance of the naming initiative, reviewing the merits of the naming initiative, supporting documentation as provided, including a review of an existing name, which in this case there is not a name, and then you take action, whether it be approval, make amendments, postpone, or vote to deny a name for that dog park. Step 5 of the process, I don't have any designs for you today to review. I did not attach that. We are in the initial process of reaching out to designers to design a sign that we propose to be about 3 foot high by 10 foot wide that would hang from the fence, called the barking lot. And we're just really getting budget numbers right now, or what it would cost to look like. And it's about a $1,700 design fee and sign creation fee for that. We of course would need to be able to follow a process for that, for the building codes and sign codes, get that applied for. I'm sorry, 12 by 3, not 10 by 3. So it'd be 12 by 3, 12 that would hang on the fence on that northeast corner of the dog park, install on the fence. In closing, just to review the different options before you, you can approve this resolution 26-8333 for the municipal naming of the parking lot for the dog park at John Parker Jr. Park, or you can do so with amendments as you deem appropriate. You can postpone this request, or you can deny this request, leaving the dog park unnamed. Again, I'll stand for any questions that you might have, and yeah.
Okay, any questions, comments?
I guess I would ask a question if I could, Jeff, and
Sure.
that would be, it says $1,700 for each sign, and then you talk about them hanging from a fence. It just, from what I've seen, the fence isn't that substantial. It doesn't seem like the signage, it just seems like a lot of money for each sign.
We propose one sign. We're not going to do multiple signs. It's not a huge dog park. That expense is a budgeted expense, but it also includes a design fee for the number of hours that would take to come up with a design, to review, for staff to review that design. So there's some hours baked into that for that design review process.
Well, it just still seems extreme, having put together many signs in years gone by. In this day and age, put a design at, I don't know how there could be hours put into it.
It's the sign itself would be aluminum, so it'd be, it wouldn't be, anything, but it would be large, so it does take someone a little bit of space and ability to cut a 12 by 3 feet sign, but I didn't, to answer your question properly, I didn't get a breakdown of what the design expense is and what the actual sign expense is. It was really a budgetary number for this meeting.
Okay.
Do you have a certain vendor you use, or do you do RFPs, or is it small enough you just have a certain?
Well, we would follow the purchasing policy. The budget number I got from one vendor, but I would need to search more.
Okay.
And for Apple's approach,
Perfect.
to do a competitive approach for that
Thank you.
process.
Anyone else? Okay, any comments from the public? Okay, if no comments from the public, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor Hoppick, I move that the City Commission approve resolution number 26-833 for the municipal naming for the parking lot for the dog park at John Parker Jr. Park in accordance with the municipal family naming guidelines.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 26-8333 for the municipal naming for the barking lot for the dog park at John Parker Jr. Park in accordance with the municipal facility naming guidelines. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That item passes 5-0. That will bring us to the consent agenda.
Item 4.1, consider approval of the minutes of the January 26th, 2026 regular meeting. And item 4.2, consider approval of a change order for project number 21030, project number 1 water main replacement in the amount of $185,820.20 and extending the date of completion to June 4th, 2025.
Thank you. Is there an item a commissioner would like to have removed from the consent agenda?
I would like to have 4.2 or
Okay.
just get more information on the 185,000 and change. I think the taxpayers would probably like a little bit more explained there.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. I guess I'll take a motion to approve consent agenda item 4.1.
I move we approve consent agenda item 4.1.
Second.
A motion and second to approve consent agenda item 4.1. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's 5-0. Okay, 4.2. Martha, that's you.
So item 4.2 was again to consider approval of a change order for project number 21030, project number 1 water main replacement in the amount of $185,820.20 and extending the date of completion to June 4th, 2025.
Mayor Hoppick and Commissioners, Martha Tasker, Director of Utilities. And what would work best? Do you have some specific questions, or would you like me to just highlight some of the major issues? What would meet your
A couple of things, Martha.
Okay.
I guess the completion date of June 4th, 2025 has obviously already gone on by. And there's a lot of people in the community that feel that we do change orders, we do them, we approve them too freely. And I think I've heard there's some very logical reasons why the contractor went over, kind of like a remodeling job while you're at it, that you had to add lines that were replaced. But I think it's important for the taxpayers to know that. Because again, all too often, it seems like the contractor provides a bid. This bid had a contingency of 5%, and this 188,000 is greater than that. But I thought you could add a little composure on where that dollar amount comes from.
I could. In this project, and I do like your reference of that home project you start, and before you know it, you're in the wall and a new pipe to the basement. So that happens to us out on these projects when we're working below ground. We do the best at surveying all the locations and getting locates from all of the utility companies, but often utilities are not exactly where they're identified at, and there's additional utilities. And working with a lot of the fiber that's in place right now has definitely made some challenges for us. Some of that's even been installed after our design. So in this case, I'll just talk to a couple items that were kind of unique or unusual. But the one is traffic control adjustment. And myself and a couple of my staff members that are here, Kevin Urban and Richard Sims, we spent an afternoon just digging through the contractor's bid numbers and then his weekly cost sheets to try to evaluate some of these items. So when you talk about the dates, a lot of this time has been us back and forth asking ourselves questions, asking the contractor questions to finally come to a determination. So a lot of hours went into trying to get to this point. So traffic control, if you can envision, we had many areas where the location moved on us or the pipe was deeper. I'm thinking on Crawford Street, we had trouble finding, if you can believe, a 30-inch water line. You think that would be easy to sound and find, but the staff spent quite some time finding that. down on, I think, Ohio and Albert, Shalimar. We had many times, and the line turns out in a different direction, and that changes what we do for traffic control if it gets out into the street on those heavy streets. If the line's deeper, the trench is wider, and our city spec requires if we close a lane or we reroute traffic that we have to do a traffic control plan. The traffic control plan starts with the contractor, gets reviewed by our engineering staff, and then ultimately goes to the city engineer for final approval to make sure that it's safe and meets MUTCD. So behind the scenes, there's a lot of hours that goes into that. And what we determined, there was 18 different traffic locations where we had a lane closure or actually had to close the intersection or the street that the contractor didn't have in his original bid because whatever the condition was took it. So that was an item that added a few dollars to the project, roughly $54,000 or about $3,000 per traffic control location. The other one is really a unique one, and we talked about it in our staff report, but the citizens don't get to read that. So KDHE changed their requirements and required us to also treat service lines for water and sewer as if they were public lines when they're in the public right-of-way and maintain 2-foot vertical separation. And in some of the areas we worked on this project, I'll say Bel Air, up north on 3rd, 4th Street, areas where buildings are slab on grade and don't have basements, the sewer lines are very shallow. So we end up with a lot of conflicts with the sewer and water being very close together that don't meet their requirements. To be honest, it took us a little bit of time to master how do we best do that and how do we find those in the future. But the next project that's out there right now, I think we did a good job of. But it takes a lot more time behind the scenes. But that was kind of a change that KDHE put to us just in the last few years, which really is a lot of work and a lot of effort. And that totaled, was roughly $90,000. So these two add up to a big share of that cost. And then the rest of it, I would say, are kind of somewhat routine items that we see as we go through a project. Sometimes we'll have 3 more of these and 2 less of that, but overall they kind of balance out. So we typically use 5% on projects. These existing water main projects, you're working in an area that's the pipes are 50, 75 years, and the records are pretty sketchy. So that's the major change here that comes about. Does that?
Well, I think you did a nice job of showing that. Myself going through this in detail, again, if you have to have that 2 feet of separation and you run into something and you're dealing with huge lines, not very easy to move them up or down or left or right or whatever you have to do. And I appreciate you adding what you added.
And the credit goes to at least these 2 people that are sitting here in Smoky Hill, Richard and Kevin, if you might just wave for in case they haven't met you. But they're the brains behind the operation and out in the field that make things happen and spend hours with the contractor. And Kevin, I noticed, had his spec book with him, and it looks like it's all tattered and worn, like he just about wore it out. So hopefully that helps. But we spent many hours with Smoky Hill trying to come to agreement.
Thank you.
Martha, I guess the thing that's important is that the public understands that the contractor hasn't just come in and raised the price to us. It's the word change is the whole key to it. It's a change order because of whatever scope of work was out there has had to change. So
yeah, it's a change in work.
It's a change. It's change in work. So they don't do that for free. When we enter into a contract, we have a certain agreement of what they'll do, and when those changes come about, that's when we have to do the change orders.
This one took more time than I'm used to on other projects, getting to the bottom of it with the contractor. So effort was spent to get to the right answer.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Any comments from the public? Okay. If not, I will bring it back to the commission for action.
I move approval of item 4.2 on the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda item 4.2, the approval of a change order for project number 21030, project number 1, water main replacement in the amount of $185,820.20, and extending the date of completion to June 4th. That says 2025. Is that supposed to be 2025?
It is.
Huh?
It is those dates. We've been talking about change order about that long.
Okay.
So that's the time.
Just wanted to double check that when I looked at it again.
That was
So
part of my question.
okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That item passes 5-0. That will bring us to administration.
Item 5.1, consider approval of ordinance number 26-11277, unconditionally approving the expenditure of proceeds of Salina Airport Authority Series 2025-1 notes for the purpose of financing the cost of certain substitute improvements.
Ms. Pack.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Debbie Pack, Director of Finance and Administration. State statute allows the Salina Airport Authority to issue general obligation temporary notes and bonds. In order to do so, their board must adopt a resolution and submit that to the governing body of the city for approval or disapproval. The governing body has three choices when they get that resolution. They can, 1, disapprove the authority's resolution by ordinance, 2, unconditionally approve the authority's resolution by ordinance, or approve the resolution and ask for publication, which opens that up for a protest petition. On September 18, 2024, the Board of Directors of the Authority adopted Resolution 24-11, approving the issuance of not to exceed $8,460,000 in temporary notes or general obligation bonds for 3 specific projects. The city approved that resolution on October 14, 2024. Of that approval, there was $6 million set aside for certain street, sanitary sewer, water line, and storm drainage improvements in order to facilitate future development on a parcel of land that was owned by the authority. After construction of that portion, they determined that there was a remaining balance of the temporary note proceeds of $1,560,000. Under the note resolution that was adopted on January 21st, 2026, which is number 26-01, the authority approved approximately $1,560,000 to substitute the improvements, the use of those funds for substitute improvements, which they're also allowed to do by the note resolution. The new improvements that they're proposing are M.J. Kennedy Terminal Building Phase 2 rehabilitation and aircraft maintenance, repair, and overhaul development. On a fiscal note, the original $6 million project was a special assessment project, which does go against the city's general obligation numbers. However, the new projects, the $1,560,000, are not eligible for special assessments, so that pulls that amount off of the city's general obligation and puts that number towards the airport authority's numbers as far as what they've financed. So today we have 4 options. You can approve Resolution 26-11277 unconditionally, approving the expenditure of proceeds from the Salina Airport Authority Series 2025-1 notes for the purpose of financing the cost of certain substitute improvements. You can approve this with amendments, which could include asking for a publication. You could postpone consideration and ask staff for additional information, or you could vote to deny the ordinance, resulting in the authority not being able to use these proceeds for their substitute projects. Staff recommends option number 1. We do have representatives from the Salina Airport Authority here if you have questions about the projects, the substitute projects, or the general obligation bonds in general. And I would stand for any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Pack?
No.
Okay. Any comments from the public on this item? Would Peter or Shelley like to comment on this?
Sure, thank you. Peter Miller, Executive Director of the Salina Airport Authority. And I'm going to start out with an apology. In my tenure at my previous job, I always referred to the elected officials, they were called the city the city council, not the city commission. So if I say city council, I mean commission. So other than that, so thanks for having me. So to give you a little bit of background on kind of what we're wanting to do with that, with about the 1.5 million, the phase 2 for the terminal building project includes the front of house with the pickup and drop off lanes with a new canopy, as well as a additional parking lot. Right now, there's a gravel parking lot to the east of us. We'd like to actually get that paved and kind of put together too. The intent is to use the funding, the 1.5 million or a portion of the 1.5 million for those two projects, dependent on whether or not we receive the two different grants we just applied for a couple weeks ago. There was a MAP grant, Military Airports Program, and an ATP and airport terminal building project that are both FAA grants that we hopefully are able to get. If we can get those grants, then a majority of that 1.5 million would actually be transitioned over to the MRO development up at the north end of the airport. A lot of that has to do with the permanent tail dock structure that will be assembled hopefully here in the next couple of months. As we went through that project and went through the engineering and figured out exactly what that was going to take, there were some items that were discovered that needed to be updated in the hangar, fire suppression, electrical, some different structural components of the hangar itself that we had not anticipated when the original $2 million was bonded for that. So that's kind of a high overview of what the intention for the reallocation of that funding would be. To be happy to answer any questions, really about anything, really. So,
okay. Any questions for? I was just talking to Peter about this before the meeting started. I flew in and out of Salina last week, and never have seen so many cars out at the airport, so that was great to see. So with the 3 direct flights, it's really picked up the activity.
Even more parking lot. Yep.
Yeah. I was in the gravels. I'm glad the snow was removed.
I'm trying to fix it.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. Okay. Any other? I believe we've asked for comments from the public, and there were none. With that, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor, I move we approve ordinance number 26-11277, unconditionally approving the expenditure of proceeds of Salina Airport Authority Series 2025-1 notes for the purpose of financing the costs of certain substitute improvements.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 26-11277, unconditionally approving the expenditure of proceeds of Salina Airport Authority Series 2025-1 notes for the purpose of financing the cost of certain substitute improvements. May we have a roll call?
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Ivey?
Aye.
Commissioner Lankowitz?
Aye.
Commissioner Remp?
Aye.
Mayor Hoppick?
Aye. That item passes 5-0. That will bring us to item 5.2.
Item 5.2, consider approval of resolution number 26-8327, funding a reuse center in the city of Salina from the Solid Waste Fund.
Commissioners, Sean Hennessy, Deputy City Manager. The resolution you have before you is to support the opening and purchase of a building for the Reuse It Center. The two gentlemen here, Mr. Black and Mr. Norris, are here, have already rented a facility on North Ohio, and the Reuse It Center will be used to basically divert items from the flow either to the landfill or elsewhere through selling of items that have been donated to the store, with the primary focus being on homing improvement items such as paint, shingles, and things of that nature. I'll give you just a very brief background since we've had this before us before. What the request is for originally, they were looking for $600,000 to purchase the building outright. Since that time, they have been able to talk with the landlord, and the landlord has agreed to sell the building for $319,000, I believe. And what we have done is work with them. I took a look. You have in your packet, as you've seen before, the study of the cash flow for the solid waste fund. The solid waste fund generates money by the collection of tipping fees at the landfill. We currently charge $50 a ton at the landfill. And what originally there was a resolution adopted which proposed supporting projects such as the Reuse It Center and others through venture grants and otherwise by the calculation of diversion of $1 of that $50 per ton to support some of those diversion efforts. Now, that money was not set aside in a separate fund or anything like that, and it hasn't been utilized for 8 years because the venture grants haven't been used once we started the recycling center, which is funded separately. However, since that time, we have been able to take a look at the solid waste, and we're going to have to take one of the facets is looking at the tipping fee, because if you look in your packet, you'll see that in future years there is a steady decline in the overall amount. We're going to have to address that anyway through the restructuring of debt, through looking at our tipping fees and otherwise. Since that point in time, like I said, since the purchase of the building, they've agreed to negotiate it down. What you have before you is a resolution of support for $150,000 to go towards that purchase of the building. Now, they are also, that's roughly 47% of the cost of the building. However, that does not include any interest charges, and it also does not include any improvements to the HVAC system, which I believe they are anticipating for the building. And so your options today are to accept the resolution as presented, to modify it and amend it as you so desire, to postpone consideration and give us guidance on what the additional information is you'd like, or to refuse. Sorry, can't talk. Do not pass the resolution and deny funding for the Reuse It Center. So I'm happy to answer any questions. You did also request a cash flow analysis, which is included in your packet. I'll let these two gentlemen explain that since they're the one that drafted, if you have any questions about that or any other additional information you may need.
Is this Mr. Black or Mr. Norris?
Thank you, Sean. Gary Norris and Phil Black, we stand ready to answer any questions you might have. The sum and substance of the cash flow analysis was made with a set of assumptions that I went over with the city staff, or I should say that we went over with the city staff, and they were in concurrence that we used conservative assumptions. And so we are trying to shoot for the target of generating about $30,000 a month, and that will bring us to a cash flow in the time period of April of 2027, and we believe from that point on we'll be self-sustaining. So this will help us not only in purchasing the building, it'll help us with some of the operational matters we have.
How much is the HVAC upgrade expected to cost?
$24,000.
And is that funding set aside already?
It's not set aside. It's referred to in our budget, but it's not purely set aside. We've received one grant from the Earl Bain Foundation to pay for approximately half of it.
I guess the other question I'm really aiming, can you operate in the winter and in the summer without it?
Very difficult. It was colder than, throw in any expression you like.
I'd also like to say that we decided that we should have come up with a more narrowed recommendation. So Gary and I, where'd you go? Right there. Asked to meet with Jacob and Sean and see if we couldn't hammer something out that the city would be happy with or okay with, and that we would be okay with. And so that's why we're here today. That's what got us here today. And I was very pleased at how that process worked, whatever it's worth.
Thank
you. I have a few comments, and I stated it the last time. I appreciate what you gentlemen are trying to do. Big undertaking. You've gotten a lot of great donations, which is great to see. I've gone through it, set up very well. The price has perhaps dropped in half from the initial ask. And you've specified the $150,000 from the city to help you with your initiative. And one of the things that I want to be as a commissioner is a good steward of taxpayer dollars. And providing the $150,000 seems like a lot, but I know in talking to our city manager and fellow commissioners and looking at the numbers, it seems like anything we do at the landfill, starting price is $1 million. So if we can lengthen the time that the landfill is usable, if we can lengthen the life of the equipment because we're not putting as many hours on them, I think there's a big benefit to the community. So I'm in favor of the city providing the $150,000. I just think to protect the taxpayers that we would need to, if it can be done, attach a lien, say for a 5-year time period, where then the lien could sunset after 5 years in existence, because that's after that amount of time, it seems like we should have been able to save dollars at the landfill, and you guys would really be able to get things rolling out there.
Well, I guess if we're making suggestions, and just speaking for myself, I'm interested in your immediate success, and I'm guessing we're all within a couple of birthdays of each other. Working in extreme cold and extreme heat is not good for our health. If the commissioners would consider adding in another $12,000 just to get the HVAC in, assuming the other half is coming from the grant. So you're truly fully operational. No one, I'm sure you'd accept it, but it's more a question for the others.
Is there a question?
Not a question for you.
It was a wonderful comment. Thank you.
That would put us right
I wanted to comment on Commissioner Remp. You have a great speaking voice, and for those of us that are, appreciate it.
Well, thank you. But Commissioner Davis, that would put us right at 50-50 partners, or kind of a true partnership, I would think, and I would be fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about the lien, I guess my question is, do you anticipate, because you have a lease now, do you anticipate purchasing this building now, or will this be something you'd look to purchase? Because obviously these are not enough, there's not sufficient funds to purchase the building. So You're not really going to be able to purchase the building for a period, correct?
At some point, we're going to attempt to enter into a contract for deed. By its very nature, that's borrowing money from the owner.
Mm-hmm.
Which he has made a verbal agreement to, so we're over 5 years.
I look at legal counsel. We have new legal counsel over here. Welcome aboard.
Is this on? Yeah. Literally, am I using the microphone correctly? So I've looked into this just a little bit in terms of basically what I think it would look like. Is a little different than what's the resolution in front of you, but not a lot different. What we would add as city staff is a recovery provision, sometimes called a clawback provision, that would say something like, if this venture didn't succeed, or if they sold the building and moved, or something like that happened, we would have the potential, I guess we'd evaluate then, but we'd legally have the right to recover some of these or all of these funds. You can, if you look at these kinds of situations, there's kind of a spectrum from very few strings attached all the way to many strings attached, and this would, so we could make it as complex or simple as we wanted. But if the commission wanted to put something like that in there, we could. I think if we put a lien on it, it would be something like a very junior lien or subordinate to their purchase for deed, or if they had a traditional mortgage, we'd put it on the back. And then at that point, I would, if the commission's goal is to protect their interest, I would advocate for doing that, simply because I've seen a different public body put a clawback provision in the agreement, but they didn't put a lien on it, and it's difficult to enforce, and no one really remembers the terms, and they kind of go away if you don't do that. So that's my opinion on that potential way to go.
And if we were to put a lien on it, we'd have to have the current owner's permission also. So there's a lot, yeah.
I'd like to ask
Okay.
a question, if I could, of the commission or any of you. If we're doing everything possible to make it successful, not for ourselves, but for the community, there's been a lot of citizens through. They've asked why Salina hadn't had this up until now. They're happy about that. So if we fail, there's not going to be any money that we have access to. And if we make a partial payment once a year for the next 5 years, which would be a typical contract for deed, I'm not sure where you would get much money from.
Yeah, I mean that's that scenario is played out a lot of times where there's just not much to recover, but it does give. I mean, it's more of a philosophical position whether or not it's worthwhile to try and just keep something in there in case there's something to recover. I guess the word, and I don't know if it's a best case or worst case. If the building suddenly acquired value and it was sold for a lot of value, and the taxpayers felt like they should have recovered something from that, but most likely, you know, that wasn't the focus of these discussions when we started, because it's a little bit hypothetical. I guess the question is, if we wanted to do something like that, we certainly can find a way to do it. It's just up to the commission if you want to go that direction or keep it simpler or not.
And another question, was that done with the recycling center or with any of the earlier grants?
Well, the recycling centers was never a third party.
Yeah, it's a city-owned operation.
Yeah.
It's funded.
Originally?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Now there was the one that was on Fourth, but we didn't.
So I don't believe that we had any of those types of provisions in any venture grant.
Right.
So if you're talking about images, way back in the day, then we didn't have any provisions in that in the venture grants.
I'm not sure. I feel like we need to go through all the hoops to try to put a lien on the property. I mean, we're trying to help, it's a nonprofit. We've done a lot of private-public partnerships, and we're, again, not only are we trying to keep items out of the landfill, we'll have items that are available for sale at a lower cost to the public, so I don't.
And I would also point out that irrespective of where the lien is, it's also going to depend on where you fall in terms of priority with the lien. And so you're gonna be essentially competing if there's any other creditors for that same piece of the pie.
Well, you're going to have a creditor. You're going to have the owner who's doing a carryback.
Yes.
So you're in second position anyway. So
and filing a UCC over used housing items is problematic at best, I would argue, in terms of being able to recover from those.
Right. I'd like to add, having dealt, bought and sold property in that area, there's no question in my mind that the price that is currently being asked is certainly a very reasonable price. The property and building, in my humble opinion, are worth that.
And I might just add that I think I was studying the history of Salina, and looking back, it's been a long time since we've had a new attorney, but isn't it part of the tradition of the city that a newly seated attorney has to sing the city song? And that, sorry, sometimes we get pretty serious.
if he does, I don't know it, so couldn't go.
For the benefit of everyone else here, I won't sing tonight.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions before we open up the public? Then we can.
I'd probably concur with Dr. Davis's. Let's just add that half that HVAC so they're not freezing to death next winter. As far as the lien, I'm going to have to just defer to better judgment on that, or people that are more in that field.
Okay. Comments, questions from the public?
Ben Winhole, Salina. As I stated 2 weeks ago, I am really thankful that these gentlemen are stepping up to the plate. to be able to cover an aspect of what goes out to the landfill. With that, I think a lot of the citizens would truly appreciate and approve that they get their money, basically because this will keep large items out of the landfill. And with the city-owned recycle center now for cardboard, plastic, paper, whatever, which isn't totally utilized because of the fact that a lot of people do not use this, even though they're paying for it each month on their water bill. The only other thing that I think that the city staff and commissioners would need to look at would be going back to a program for yard waste, because yard waste is a very large part of what goes into the landfill, and so you could cover another base of what's happening out in the landfill with yard waste by coming up with another program that was similar to what we had in place before it was taken away. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know yard waste was discussed when we went to the single trash containers and stuff, so can't remember all that discussion 100%, but something we can talk about. Okay, I guess bring it back to the commission for a motion and we'll see how it goes.
All right. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 26-8327, providing funding for the Reuse It Center in the amount of $162,500 from the Solid Waste Fund.
Commissioner or City Attorney, I believe you'll need to formally amend the resolution that's before you because it's at $150,000. So I believe you'd want to make a motion to amend the resolution to reflect that amount first of all.
Okay. I knew there was something I was forgetting, but thank you. In that case, I wish to amend resolution number 26-8327, providing funding for the Reuse It Center in the amount of $162,500 from the Solid Waste Fund.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to amend resolution number 26-8327, amending the amount to $162,500 coming from the Solid Waste Fund. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That item passes 5-0. Now that's amending it. Now do we need to go back and adopt the resolution, correct? Okay, yes. Now we can go back and adopt the resolution. Okay.
All right. Now I move to adopt amended resolution number 26-8327, providing funding for the Reuse It Center in the amount of $162,500 from the Solid Waste Fund.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt the amended resolution number 26-8327, providing funding for the Reuse It Center in the amount of $162,500 from the Solid Waste Fund. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That item passes 5-0. Thank you. Thank you.
I made it a whole 3 meetings without messing up on that.
Well, you didn't mess up. It was a little different.
I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the year. I've already messed it up.
That's how we learn, right?
Right.
Okay, that'll bring us to item 5.3.
Item 5.3, consider authorizing the city manager to execute a Phase 1 engineering agreement with Schwab Eaton in an amount not to exceed $302,985 for design of the Smoky Hill River Bridge replacement on Magnolia Road.
Yeah, Mr. Kowak.
Good afternoon, mayors and commissioners. Jim Kowach, Deputy Director of Public Works and the City Engineer. Before you, we've got something pretty standard in our process for developing engineering projects. We're following the city purchasing policy to do the design work on the projects that were in the approved 2026 capital improvement plan. After lively debate on the 9th Street and water well design, we're taking a little different approach to the 2 engineering agreements that you'll see tonight. We're doing a phase one, which we're calling a discovery phase, much like KDOT does their projects, where we'll do some initial traffic studies and tie down the scope of the design work as one contract, and then once we have a final design and scope, then we'll do a phase two or final design contract. That way, everybody's aware, and we've got the alternatives and everything before we're into a contract and have to possibly come back with a change order. So the first one we're going to talk about tonight is the existing Smoky Hill River Bridge on Magnolia Road. Includes the roadway from Berkley Road west, just to the levee on the west side of the soccer fields on Magnolia Road. The existing bridge was built in 1958. It's functionally obsolete because it's so narrow. It does currently hold legal loads, but on this latest bridge inspection, the superstructure and substructure were both rated a 6 on a 10, which is getting down to where it still has usable life in it, but it's nearing its end. This bridge, if you remember, was also brought before you earlier this last year because of increases in pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicular traffic and the conflicts that were associated with those because of high-speed traffic and no sidewalks on that area. We reduced the speed limit from 45 to 40 miles per hour. We put an advisory plate of 30 miles per hour on the bridge. We have deer crossing signs out there now, and for some reason the deer keep insisting to cross there. So. It was part of our 2026 plan for design, and hopefully will be for construction. Our standard qualifications-based selection for consultants is to advertise an RFP, or request for proposal. We have a team of qualified individuals on our staff that serve as our scoring committee. We have a proposed scope in that advertisement. We measure, we measure each one's skills on their performance, past performance, the projects they've done, the personnel that they have, their ability to stay within our budgets and stay on schedule. For this particular project, we had 7 consulting engineers submit proposals. From those 7, we have selected Schwab Eaton, here, a local firm here in town, who's also partnering with Finian Turnipseed, a well-known bridge contractor consultant out of Topeka. After we selected them, we did negotiate a scope for the phase 1 services, which includes all of the survey work, all of the geotechnical work, and a traffic study of the Berkley Road and Magnolia Road intersection to make sure that that intersection will, whatever design is needed in the future, that we buy the necessary right-of-way at this time. So we're splitting the design phases into phase 1 and phase 2. This is phase 1. Initially, we had $600,000 budgeted for the preliminary engineering. This proposal for phase 1 is for $302,985. The final agreement and proposed scope will be brought before you again before that contract would be complete. So we're here today to approve a motion authorizing city manager to execute an agreement with Schwab Eaton for the amount of $302,985 for phase 1 design services for the Smoky Hill River Bridge replacement and associated Magnolia Road improvement project. As usual, you can amend that proposal, you can postpone or take no action. We would like to get the design work started on this project right away as the consultant has staff available. In your packet was a location map and the proposed phase 1 engineering agreement for your review. I'll stand for any questions.
Okay. Any questions for?
It had actually nothing to do with the contract. I was just curious, why is the 30 mile an hour an advisory rather than a mandatory drop in speed?
Well, you can't drop more than 5 or 10 miles per hour by state law just in a short period of time there. It's advising people they should slow down because of the sight distance and the possibility of someone being on the bridge. That was the intent, is just we want people to slow down, but more than likely it'd be really hard to enforce it just for that short distance as well.
Okay. From driving around town, it seems like a lot of speed limits are just advisory.
Well, every time I cross that, every time I cross that bridge, I think I see Mr. Johnson coming in his big truck coming towards me. That bridge gets real narrow when you're halfway across and have no options.
I do have one question on the Phase 1 engineering. Will that tell us whether they plan on leaving that bridge open, whether both lanes, one lane? Will it also address whether whether they will move the bridge to a different location? What will Phase 1 actually
Mayor
do
Hoppick,
for
that's a good point. I meant to actually bring that up. As a condition of the design work, we told them that the consultants, their proposals, they could not close the bridge, that was not an option. As part of their consideration or qualifications, they had to demonstrate that they had either done an offset of a full bridge or a partial bridge, which is where you build half of a new bridge, control traffic with a traffic signal during the project, and then come back, tear the old bridge down, and build the second half of the bridge. So we're going to look at alternatives for building a half of a bridge at a time or a completely full offset of a bridge. And then also with a large bridge like that, there are considerations for material types. It's very suitable for concrete beams or steel beams. That would change the cost of the bridge, the per square foot. We are not looking at a 4-lane bridge like the Crawford Street Bridge. At the most, we're looking at like a 3-lane bridge or a 2-lane bridge with some shoulders so that it doesn't feel quite so tight when those trucks are barreling towards you. There will be a 10-foot trail on the north side. We do plan to have decorative lighting or rails on the bridge, much like the projects that we're doing in town. And we have proposed, at least for now, to put a hawk signal or a temporary pedestrian crossing signal at the levee trail right at the soccer fields, because it's like right at the crest of a small curve or limited sight distance.
That'll get you from the north to the south side on the 10-foot sidewalks then?
Yes, that gets you from the existing 10-foot trail on the south side at the levee. You'd cross over to the north side, and the trail would be on the north side up to Markley Road.
And then we'd finish out the sidewalk, the trail on Markley from where it stops.
Yes, they would be connected as part of this project.
And that's part of the project?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any comments from the public?
Tony Johnson, Salina. I would just be curious if on these RFPs, after having dug into this with the county, that's more or less a vehicle for staff to use whoever they want. If there's any guidelines when they score these, or if it's all just subjective. And I'd also like to know who the 3 lowest bidders were and their names. So thank you.
Does anybody want to answer part of that?
Yeah, there is there's a criteria with your past performance, your personnel, your project management, your budget and schedule, and all of those have a percentage. 4 independent scores are done on their qualifications, and we select based on qualifications. There's no bidding involved. We negotiate with the firm on the number of hours to do the tasks that are identified in the scope, and then their fees are usually pretty standard in the industry, so much per hour with an overhead rate and a net fee of 10% on top of that. So you negotiate a fee after you've selected the firm based on qualifications. There were 4 of us that independently scored them, and we came to the same conclusion on who should be selected.
Thank you.
And we do have a guideline, or we have a guidebook. It's called our Professional Services Solicitation Guidebook that we use citywide.
So the top choice always gets, like, say, 10 points. He doesn't give him 10. The next guy gives him 6. One guy gives him 4. That's what I'm saying. That's what I've run into looking at this.
Yeah, we have a way to score it.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody gets ranked independently, and then we come together and meet.
Right, I understand that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else in the public? Okay, if not, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Move to approve a motion authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Schwab Eaton, PA for the amount of $302,985 for Phase 1 design services for the Smoky Hill River Bridge replacement and associated Magnolia Road improvement project.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Schwab Eaton, PA, for the amount of $302,985 for Phase 1 design services for the Smoky Hill River Bridge replacement and associated Magnolia Road improvement project. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That item passes 5-0. That will bring us to item 5.4.
Item 5.4, consider authorizing the city manager to execute an engineering agreement with Alfred Benish and Company for traffic studies and engineering design of improvements to the Schilling Road and Ohio Street intersection in the amount of $125,600.
Mr. Kowak.
Jim Kowach, city engineer. Much like the previous project, this is a project that was improved in the 2026 capital improvement plan. This is to do the design work. Here again, we plan on using a two-phase approach. This is the phase 1, which would include the analysis of the current traffic patterns and projected traffic patterns, and examine what type of intersection would be, what kind of traffic signal warrants or what type of intersection would be best utilized in this location. Schilling Road currently is 4 lanes north of, or Ohio is 4 lanes north of Schilling Road, 2 lanes south of Schilling Road, 3 lanes west of Ohio, and 2 lanes east of Ohio on Schilling. So we've got a combination of lanes. As you alluded to earlier, guidelines seem to be, or speed limits seem to be a guideline, so the posted speed limit's 40 miles per hour. With southbound traffic, some of those outside folks in what should be the turn lane decide that they want to go straight at the last moment, which leaves the people sitting at the stop sign in a real quandary as to whether they should go or not, or try to shoot a gap, but resulting in long queues during our peak hours between 4:30 or 3:30 to 5:30, really, because of the shift work out in that area. We got long queues, folks trying to make left-hand turns. A majority of the current traffic southbound to westbound. So we want to study that intersection, see if a traffic signal or a roundabout is the best solution. Once we have a well-defined scope, then we will have another design contract come before you for final design. We also have Johnson Sand on the east leg of that, so we're also dealing with truck traffic. A growing number of folks from Waterwell Road traveling north and south on this section of Ohio as a shortcut. So traffic has definitely increased out there. Speeds have increased out there. Accidents are increasing, and we hear many reports of near misses or people that are really hesitant to pull out when they're trying to make a left-hand turn from Schilling to northbound Ohio. So it's currently stop controlled. We want to do a phase 1, get through, make a recommendation, come back to you for final design. Went through our qualifications-based selection. We had 5 consulting engineering firms submit on this project. We went through the same selection criteria, had a preliminary scope for the work that they would need to do. Phase 1 would include all of the surveys, all of the geotechnical work, and the traffic study of alternatives and signal warrants. We'll come back for a second phase. Initially, we had $300,000 budgeted for the design work. Phase 1 right now is $125,600, and the Phase 2 design work would that'll be negotiated, or once we have a defined scope, that would come to you later. Alfred Benish, well-known consulting firm, hasn't done a lot of work in Salina before, but they've done many of the roundabouts for the Kansas Department of Transportation, and they currently have done several of the designs of the roundabouts there in Manhattan on K113. So looking forward to an opportunity to work with them. They're also subcontracting with Schwab Eaton to do surveys and public involvement with Dan Stack on their staff, that any kind of public involvement or interaction with the public, they have a local face in the community to help them with that. So have a very good, strong reputation, negotiated a fee which we thought was fair, and looking forward to getting moving forward on that project as well. So we're here today before you to approve a motion authorizing city manager to execute the agreement with Alfred Benish and Company in the amount of $125,000 for Phase 1 design services for Schilling Road and Ohio Street intersection improvements. That was falsely called the roundabout design in our CIP, but that's it's an intersection improvement until we find otherwise. So I'll stand for any questions.
I have a couple, or at least a question and maybe a comment. But when we leading up to the 9th and Waterwell Road, that intersection, one of the things that was provided was receipts, kind of a history of accidents at that intersection. I don't see anything regarding this intersection. Has there been, I mean, you talked about near misses, but has there been any accidents?
There have been 4 or 5 accidents out there in the last 4 or 5 years. This was one of the areas that was identified in the safety action plan as a location that is a high-risk area or high-risk network because it's similar to other locations in town where we have had a lot of accidents. Fortunately, we don't have a lot of, compared to like Kansas City and Wichita, fatalities. You know, 1 fatality is too many, but the fatalities that were in the past 5 years that were looked at in our safety action plan, there was no one specific reason or location. We have not had a fatality at this location, but it is an area where there is high-speed traffic that intersects at 90 degrees, and there's the potential for severe injury or fatalities here.
Kind of a part 2 of that, Jim. We don't know what the traffic counts going through that intersection are as far as north, south, coming from the west. We don't have any data from, say, 10 years ago and what it is currently.
Oh, we do. I did not include that in the blue sheet, but there is. We've counted it before, just with our own guys. Not in the last few years. There's KDOT counts actual census counts that they use every 10 years, and we're right in between the 2 10-year counts. But that would be the first thing, because we want to actually know if it meets the current intersection signal warrants. We want to get an accurate traffic count, and that would be one of the first things that this consultant would do, would be measuring it during the week at different times in the day.
Well, how do they measure it? I mean, we've all seen the little pneumatic line going across the road. I think it is that trips a counter every time a vehicle goes across it, but do they physically sit there and count cars, or?
That is the brute force way of doing it. There's guys in lawn chairs that sit there and count how many are turning left and how many are turning right. So,
because I think we all kind of see what the traffic patterns are out there, and
Commissioner, I think that's one of your request for some of the data. That's one of the things that obviously they'll be looking at in the traffic study, in addition to compiling those statistics. So that's why it's kind of at the earlier stage as far as the design stage, rather than bringing it forward to you for a final action. So they should be able to have that additional information that will be available to you before it comes time to make a decision on this intersection. This is just the design phase.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? I do have one comment because I go through that intersection quite frequently. Should we be considering, because you're talking about we haven't had any fatalities or any serious accidents at this point, it's been near misses, is that an intersection until we get this taken care of, we should look at a 4-way stop? I really am concerned about traffic going east on Schilling and turning to the north with that traffic going from north to south on Ohio at a fairly significant speed.
That is one of the things that we had our consultant look at on Waterwell and 9th Street, and that we are anxious to get the traffic information going, and that was part of their scope, was to analyze if that would be a recommendation.
At least for now. I don't think that's a long-term solution.
They're actually hoping to get approval tonight so they can start some of those studies next week. So it's the very first thing on the list is to get some traffic analysis done and some recommendations to us.
Okay, I just I'd hate for us to
so
be.
once they have those recommendations back on if we need to change that, that's something in my authority to do, so we can do that.
Add the stop signs or something, because it's, okay. Because it is a very, at certain times of day, that's a really high activity intersection. Okay, any comments from the public?
Norman Allen, Salina, Kansas. What are you going to do about that 9th and Magnolia? That's a demolition derby there. I mean, that's not funny.
I didn't laugh.
And you better start looking at these unmanned vehicles, Uber drivers. I seen one out there. There was no driver in that accident. I'm serious. I'm sitting right there in the Aldi parking lot, looking at intersection, no obstruction. And that car was upside down on its hood, and there was no driver in it.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, if not, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Mr. Mayor, I move the City Commission authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with Alfred Benish and Company for the amount of $125,600 for Phase 1 design services for the Schilling Road and Ohio Street intersection improvement project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve, to authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Alfred Benish and Company in the amount of $125,600 for Phase 1 design services for the Schilling Road and Ohio Street intersection improvement project. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
That item passes 4-1. That leads us to item 5.5.
Item 5.5, consider approval of resolution number 26-8330, a resolution of advisability establishing a special improvement district in Interstate District southwest of I-70 Addition Number 2, and authorize the related development agreement.
Afternoon, Jim Kowach. This is a little bit different engineering agreement where we've got before you. On June 2nd, 2025, the City Commission met and approved a request to authorize city staff to prepare special assessment engineering feasibility report for the Interstate District southwest of I-70 Addition Number 2. And this, if you're not familiar with this area, this is the frontage road on the south side of I-70 on 9th Street, on the west side of 9th Street. That currently there's a relatively new hotel in place. There's a newer hotel being constructed, and this lot or this development is the west end of that street. So the developer has provided an estimate of $554,310 for construction of the public improvements needed to complete that addition. The total for engineering fees, construction interest, and contingencies totals another $160,366.50. And then if you add in the administrative and Bondy costs of $55,431, the total cost becomes $770,107.50. The petitioner is requesting that 100% of the fees be allowed for special assessment, and they would be distributed, or the improvement district would be distributed equally per lot. There's a lot of rules and regulations that govern how and when and why you can get a special assessment or agreement going. We've been working with Roger Bakta of Bakta Construction Incorporated to develop the agreement. The attached development agreement is similar to previous agreements approved for subdivision developments, where the developer contracts privately with contractors to construct the improvements, and then the city reimburses the developer for the eligible costs. He has met all the conditions, or one of the conditions required to consider a petition for street drainage, sewer, and water improvements. In this case, condition number 3. The engineering feasibility report for the public improvements is attached for your review, which includes the items of work and the estimated costs, the construction breakdown. 100% of the cost of the improvements is proposed to be assessed to the benefit district. The property owners may choose to pay their share of the project costs as a lump sum payment or special assessment tax over 20-year period, beginning on the date the general obligation bonds are issued. The petitioner has met the cash or financial securities equal to 20% of the project costs with the city. So that item has been met. The 100% of the estimated costs of $770,170.50 are to be assessed against the total improvement district. And they do have the option to pay it in full before the bond issue, or they can elect to have it paid within 20 years. There's quite a few attachments here as far as a site map and the petition, the engineering feasibility report, the improvement district development agreement, and the benefit district map. So those are all included if you have any questions on those. But this is not unlike several of the recently approved development agreements for special assessments. So we're here to request that you approve resolution number 268330 and authorize the city manager to execute an improvement district development agreement with the city of Salina and Bakta Construction. As usual, you can approve that proposal, or you can add amendments. You can postpone or deny. The petitioner, Roger Bakta, is here if you have any questions for the petitioner, or I am willing to stand for questions.
Okay, I'll look to my right. Any questions, comments?
A question and maybe a comment for you, Jim. I remember when I was looking at it, this is for like half a dozen lots or something that frontage road will serve?
This particular petition is for 3 lots. 2 buildable lots and a drainage easement.
So probably more, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, but for the people in the community, to me, on the surface, it seems like spending over $770 grand for improvements to be able to have 3 lots. It seems like an extreme amount of money, but that will be assessed to the property, the city, how should I word this? If I understood it correctly, are the lots currently occupied or are they vacant? 2 of them are occupied, maybe?
The lots currently are agricultural use. The other portion of this property, in conjunction with previously developed properties, is Mr. Bakta has paid at his own expense for an engineering report. This area is very close to the floodplain. He's made sure that we've met a no-rise condition, that he's provided storage detention for any water within the floodplain, and also built up the site. They're commercial properties, so the properties, even though there are only 2 developable sites, the total price will be assessed back to those 2 commercial properties, which are expected to generate income for the city in the future.
Okay, and do I understand it correctly that while the land is vacant, the improvements have been done, the land is vacant, does the developer pay the property tax with the specials while the land's vacant, or do they not kick in until somebody buys and develops the property?
No, they start within a certain time frame after they're completed.
So the developer, if the lot is sitting there empty, the developer, landowner, would be paying those property taxes?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's worth mentioning that this location is, close to a gateway corridor, and we can do, especially in the north end, anything we can to improve the aesthetics of the area. We should definitely do. And Mr. Bakta, in particular, has been a part of a number of projects which have done exactly that. And I feel like we should just let him continue the good work.
And I guess this is maybe to help Commissioner Rimp out, and I see Ms. Pack sitting back there, but we'll have another, you'll come back to us with actually the bonding resolution to actually do the bonding. And when we do the bonding, and I'm going to speak here, Debbie, so please tell me when I'm wrong, but once those are completed, the bonds are sold, there's an amortization schedule set up. So those payments are paid whether there's anything on it or not. And if I'm correct, the bonding for spatial assessments does not go against our bonding limit. Is that correct?
It does because we typically don't separate them from our issuance.
Okay.
However, you are correct. Number one is the bonds are issued when the project is complete. So when the improvements are made, the bonds are issued, the developer is reimbursed. No matter what what's done with the actual properties, those assessments are levied against those properties, and those are paid by whoever owns it at that moment. So if the developer still owns those and there's no development, they pay those special assessments until he sells or develops.
Yeah, to me, that's good to hear. That was good for me to find out and good to hear.
Yeah. But those do go against our bonding limit. I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And I don't know if you recall, some of you were here, but we went through kind of special pains to make sure that frontage road that used to be KDOT right-of-way is now city street, and that we did have the right to allow it to be improved and to place improvements on that area. So we've had several steps here leading up to the culmination of actually adding public improvements to this end of the street.
Because I think there was a lot of work involved with the state, wasn't there, to get that all worked out?
It wasn't. It took a while.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if Mr. Bachta wants to make any comments or not.
Unless you guys have any questions.
Okay, unless you have any questions for the applicant. Okay, any comments from the public? Okay, if not, we'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Move to
Go ahead.
Okay, move to approve resolution number 26-8330 and authorize the city manager to execute an improvement district development agreement between the city of Salina and Bachta Construction Incorporated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 26-8330 and authorize the city manager to execute an improvement district development agreement between the city of Salina and Bachta Construction, Inc. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That item passes 5-0. Thank you. That will lead us, so we have no development business. That will lead us to other business. Is there an item a commissioner would like to bring before the group? No. Anything this direction?
I don't know the proper way to address this, so I'm just going to say it with talking about traffic control around town. To me, it seems like the intersection of what would be 7th Street and Iron. Recently, we added street angle parking pretty much right up to the intersection, which if you get a truck or SUV of some sort right up to the intersection, it just makes it, your line of sight is very limited getting out into that intersection.
Yeah, I think there's several instances, I think, where we've changed some parking that we might want to look at. So if you have those, we might give them to Mr. Wood, and he can look into that. So I know there's...
Yeah, we can take a look at that.
Yeah. And I know we took away, that used to be a stoplight there, and then we went to two-way, so you got to kind of be careful there. So.
Yeah, we've looked at it a little bit in the past, and it's... I'm not sure if we just remove one spot, it really does that much. So you almost have to remove 2 or 3 spots, and then we get into a situation where we're taking people's parking away. So we haven't come up with a real good solution, but I'll have our engineers take another. It's been some time since we've looked at that, so I think we can dust it off and take another look for sure.
Thank you.
Okay. For the fellow commissioners, you have a packet for board appointments that you received, so if you would please get those to me. I think those are due to me by next Monday, so if you could get me your requests. And to follow what I said I was going to do, I want to every meeting mention something positive that's going on in the community, and there's things that go on out at the airport and at K-State Salina that we don't see unless you drive out there intentionally. So there's currently a 47,000 square foot building being built out on the K-State campus. It's called CARES, and that stands for Kansas Artificial Intelligence Research and Entertainment Studio. And this is something coming to our community like we have never seen before. These are different jobs than what we've ever seen. These are high tech. This is a virtual reality company moving here from California. They're looking to bring approximately 70 employees, and these jobs will be considerably over the median income in Salina. So we're pretty excited about that, and there's just a lot of potential that comes along with this. This individual has a lot of connections in Hollywood and with the aircraft, and just a lot of potential. So I just have a couple short paragraphs here. Dr. Starkey out at K-State's done a wonderful job with all this and been very instrumental. And just to kind of give you an explanation of what this is, it says, CARES is more than a research center, more than an entertainment studio, and more than an educational institution. It's a place where storytelling, design, coding, and cutting-edge technology converge to pioneer the next generation of AI-driven applications, virtual environments, and immersed training systems. So this is something that we've not seen before, and really exciting to the community. And so they're hoping to have this facility completed by the end of the year. So something to look forward to. So just wanted to, again, if you're out driving around, if you drive out by the K-State campus, you'll notice that. And what was it, 2 years ago? I think the campus, they added the new dorms out there. I think they had 100 rooms in it. So K-State Salina is doing a really good job and is great for the community. So just wanted to point that out. So
pretty cool.
Yeah, it is going to be cool. AI is the thing of the future, I guess. I don't understand it completely, but it's where we're headed. So it's great to have a business like that in our community. So. Okay, with that, we will open it up to Citizens Forum. It's an opportunity for individuals to come forward and address the commission, and we ask that you please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. And please give your name and where you're from.
Christina Small. I'm the Executive Director at Salina Area United Way. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm here today to share an update on our Snapback Against Hunger event that we held back in November that you guys so generously supported with $5,001. Like I said, the event took place back in November, and while it took some time to compile data, and then our office just experienced all the illness that's been going along. So I appreciate your patience and wanted to make sure I gave you guys the outcomes that we found from that evening. On that night, 350 households received groceries, food that was purchased by Salina Area United Way thanks to supporters like you, along with donations from our community. Each household completed an intake form so that we could gather demographic information and better report on the populations we are serving. So here are a few highlights. 32% of primary participants reported having a disability. 33% of households were two-parent households with children. 21% were single-parent households with children. 70% of the households reported an annual income of $30,000 or less. 32% of primary participants reported full-time employment. Of those, 38% held a degree or college certificate. 24% of primary participants reported being unemployed. Of those, 17% held a degree or college certificate. At the conclusion of the event, remaining groceries were distributed to several community partners to ensure continued access beyond a single evening. These partners included the Kansas Impact Coalition, who stocked their refrigerators and freezers around town with milk, eggs, and frozen pizza, as well as Salvation Army, Salina Grace, Salina Shares, and Catholic Charities. This approach allowed us to meet people where they are and remove the barrier of the event being limited to one night. Because of the support from the city and our generous donors, we were able to purchase and distribute more than 15,000 pounds of food, in addition to a significant amount that was donated by the community. Thank you for your continued support and for showing up for the individuals and families in our community who needed it the most. We are truly grateful for our partnership. So.
Yeah, thank you for your work.
And then here's just a thank you card for the city.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments for United Way?
Nice to get feedback.
Thank you. Yeah, it's...
Sorry it took so long. Illness, other events, it just got away from me.
So we appreciate you coming forward, sharing that with us. So.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Rosemary Mice, Salina, Kansas. I wanted to invite
all you commissioners and the public to the Granny Brigade's February meeting on Tuesday, February the 17th at 7 p.m. at the Carver Center. And this month, our guest speakers will be representing our local charitable organizations, and the ones that have responded to our invite is Ambuck's Breakfast Bandits, Ambuck's New Network, Ashby House, DVAC, and Salina Shares. And we're hoping that we have a good turnout, and they will be sharing their mission and goals and needs, and then we'll have it open for questions. So,
okay.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week, Tuesday, February the 17th at 7 p.m.
Hey, before you leave, quick question. Today your birthday?
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Patrick, you can sing.
Okay. Anyone else?
North Mountain, Salina. Why in the city, some of your speed limit signs say speed limit. The next sign says MPH. Why is it that way? 88 feet per second equals 60 miles per hour. So what speed are we supposed to go? Mile per hour or feet per second? There are people from other countries that are driving here. Are we driving kilometers per miles per hour? Deer overpasses are being built in the U.S. We're looking at United States Fish and Game issues, federal. So, build an overpass.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Rose Bass. I'm a retired former director of the Salina Animal Shelter. I retired in 2014. I have before you several of the inspection reports from K-State or Kansas Animal Health Department about how the shelter has failed in the past, and it's just really concerning to me that nothing's being done about it. That I feel like nothing's being done. We've been on this road since 2024, I think, when the volunteers all got personally ran off. The record keeping they're still having issues with it. They've been written up about that before. The cleanliness reported on the state inspections about the dirty water bowls. No wonder there's so much sickness at our animal shelter. And the care of the animals. In the past, to say they have found nothing, I beg to differ, Mr. Hammond. I have it right here. They found several. On one of the complaints, they found 13 reports of incidences. So to give animals a heart stick without proper sedation, that's totally unacceptable. I can't believe our animal shelter has come to this. I think it's time now that you guys turn the animal shelter over to somebody that knows how to run an animal shelter. The Parks Department does not. The Parks Department can run the golf course and the tennis courts and the pickleball courts. They have no knowledge, and the swimming pools. They have no knowledge on running an animal shelter the way an animal shelter needs to be ran. These animals have been suffering. There's a report in here about the feces smeared on the walls, about a dog that slipped and fell because the floors was still wet because nobody went back to squeegee them in their proper cleaning procedure. It's all right here. I have them all right here. State of Kansas. So to have somebody come up here and say that there hasn't been any incidences is totally irrelevant. And it's time you guys need to look at something and really wholeheartedly do something about this. I mean, we're not giving up. It's right here in black and white, you know. It breaks my heart to see the animal shelter has come to this. I love that facility, you know. It's like nobody cares. And to hear the reports when they keep saying that, well, we don't have enough staff. Well, you guys have heard it many times. They go in there, 4 or 5 people sitting at the desk. In the meanwhile, there's feces in the pens and everything else. The animals aren't being cared for. And tell me this, too. I would really like to know, on the court case dogs, why are the windows taped over? You know, I mean, you can't even look in the glass to see. What are they hiding? And this is one of the things that the state inspector complained about. This is where the animal had the feces smeared all over the walls, and they was standing up on their beds because the floors was all wet. So, anyway, we're still working at it. And for those that you really care about animals, Wednesday night at 4 o'clock, we'll be here again. So please tune in.
Okay. Thank you.
Ben Winhole, Salina. I only had one issue today, but now I've got three. I'm going to start off with Commissioner Remp, piggybacking on what he said with the parking for downtown. I'm going to give you another area that is really dangerous because last week the fiance and I had an event at Rosie's, and we decided to do the parking, which would be east of 7th and north of Iron. And as we were pulling in, there was no other cars in any of those slots. And as we were pulling in, we came within 3 feet of being T-boned by an individual that thought that was a turning lane onto 7th. And when I opened the door to let them know that this was parking, they weren't very happy. So that is an area that possibly needs to be looked at also as far as safety for driving. The lift station on Magnolia, that would be about right across the street from Eagle Crest. For a year and a half now, that station has quite an odor to where if I lived in that neighborhood, I would be screaming or I would be moving. As you drive by there at any time, you can smell it. Now, as a plumber of 45 years, we would consider that a large denomination of a fee to get rid of that smell. So I think that's something that needs to be looked into since it's been a year and a half, just exactly what's going on with that lift station and why it smells of fecal matter so bad. Last thing that I want to touch on would be to talk about Rose Base and what she is trying to do. I think it's time for the city to look into Prairie Paws. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Bonnie Newbrand, and I guess I say hello to all of you. My main concern with this report from the state of Kansas is, and I'm just going to read it because it's easier, injections due to the employee's inability to locate the veins of the cat. Records provided by designated agent, and I don't know who the agent is, indicate 61 animals euthanized between October of 25 and January of 26. That's 3.5 months. At least 13 animals were completed by IP injection. 2 cats were euthanized by IC intracardiac injection. And the records further indicate that at least 1 cat, whose ID is whatever, was euthanized by IC injection and was not administered the ketamine, which I don't know anything about medications, but it calms the animal maybe. And so these animals were also given this euthanization by staff that wasn't even trained to do this. They simply did it without certification. And then some agent says, oh, well, I'm planning on doing something with the Arizona online class. Okay, why, if that person has been there for years, hasn't it been done? My question is, how did we get here? How did we get to the point of having a well-run shelter with no incidents or no severities to this? Now, this is a severity 1. Back in 2023, I know they had a higher severity. That's only, 2 or 3 years ago? And got fined. Now we have a severity 1, but if you've read this report, and I pray to God every one of you has seen this report and read it, because it will make you sick, that even that this can even be done in our city. This is a good town. I love living in Salina. I love all the things that you guys are doing and making it better. But the one thing that is the bastard child in this town is the animal shelter. I don't know why. Maybe you can tell me why. But I don't believe that the staff that are in there right now, my own opinion, are the ones that should be. They don't have the knowledge, they don't have the leadership abilities, they don't have the management abilities, and I just keep asking, why did we get here? I used to volunteer there. I would sit in front of the cages, talk to the dogs, give them a treat, socialize with them. Now you're stopped like it's a Oshwath place to go to die. You walk in, there's a big panel. Yes, that was for COVID. COVID's over. We get the flu. We get a shot. We need to be able to go in, socialize with these animals. And I don't know what they're so afraid of. What, like Rose said, what are they hiding? It gives the community the impression they're hiding something. Someone even came out and said that the person that's in charge over there is having them pick up animals and taking them home. Now, I'm not talking about dogs and cats. I'm talking about raccoons. I'm talking about squirrels, birds. Taking them home and doing a rehab doesn't even have a license. Now, that may or may not be true. I don't know. But if it's the perception of what's going on over there, what's not going on. And yes, some people do find a wonderful, lovely cat, dog, or whatever, and they do adopt them. They had $5 adoptions. What good does that do when their turnover of bringing the animal back is, so you let them have them for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry.
3 minutes,
You let them have them for $5, but then when they're not a puppy or a kitty anymore, they come back. So anyway, that's my question. How do we get here? How do we solve it? And I agree with Prairie Paws coming in and taking it over and getting rid of the government. Not you guys.
Thank you.
But having somebody come in that knows what they're doing. Thank you.
Good evening, Tony Johnson, Salina. I see we're getting ready to go into an executive session. What I've got in my email doesn't tell you any information about it. It just tells trade secrets and attorney-client privilege, but nothing screams transparency from your local government like vagueness and closed doors. I'm hoping it's a major manufacturer distributor that will employ hundreds with above average wages and benefits and not some retail development. I'm also going to hope that neither our mayor or vice mayor will seek to do business of any kind with the principals of this development should they join in the executive session. I find it disturbing that these developers have their hand out for public money and incentives, but the public is excluded from the details surrounding it in the initial discussion. I wonder why that is. Low taxes and top-notch infrastructure are great economic development tools, period. Okay, Public Works, I want to give them an A+ on the snow removal once again. Bang up job. I've looked into credit cards here at the city. We've got 119 credit cards in circulation within the city of Salina. 39 of those are at Parks and Rec. I've requested some directors' statements for, this goes back to 2024, but Arts and Humanities, they spend a lot of time in Oklahoma City, Lawrence, and Austin, Texas. Don't know why. Spent $3,400 at Dillon's that year, $675 at Carol Lee Donuts, $750 at Ya-Ya's, and we even had a Smoothie King from Kansas City, Missouri on there. So, Building Services, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and Fayetteville, Arkansas. I saw a receipt from Amazon or Walmart.com, whatever, that, I don't know, for some reason I requested that receipt, and the delivery address was redacted. So that sent up red flags. That's suspicious. Why would you redact this address? So I went to her office and asked to see these curtains that supposedly they were. She killed enough time that Jacob showed up because she was taken aback. She apologized that I felt that. But I tried to impress upon her, it's not your money, it's our money. You shouldn't be ordering anything on our dime going to your house. I don't care why. There's not a good reason for that. It doesn't lead to faith in the system. Parks and Rec Director, I saw a $430 charge for an Airbnb in Overland Park, Kansas. To his credit, I went to him and asked him what that was about. He took his family down there for 2 days. He's got a vehicle allowance, I believe, as well on his contract with the city. And this is permitted within city policy. I don't know why. They can take family. You know, how much of all this travel that we do is necessary? Because to me, it looks like these trips are just getaways, mini vacations, and networking events on our dime. I wish I knew the benefit of traveling, okay? It's not the public's job to make sure public employees pad their resume to move to the next step, okay? That's not our job.
Okay, just a couple.
I've traveled as a mechanic. I work for 2 major engine companies, both based out of St. Louis, and I've traveled all over, mainly for training and certification and whatnot, and not once did I stay in a Sheraton, a Hyatt, you know, an Airbnb.
Okay.
I mean, if it's good enough for the private, it's good enough for the public to see cheaper lodging if we're going to keep traveling.
Thank you.
May I address something?
No, one time. I'm sorry. Okay, anyone else?
Oh, I didn't know.
Okay, if not, we will move into executive session. How long do we need?
15 minutes.
15 minutes, okay.
I move the City Commission recess into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss the subject of a specific economic development prospect based upon the need to discuss data relating to financial affairs or trade secrets of corporations, partnerships, trusts, and individual proprietorships pursuant to KSA 75-4319B4. There's possible action to follow. We will
6:25.
Thank you. Return to regular session at 6:26.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move into to recess into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss the subject of a specific economic development prospect based upon the need to discuss data relating to financial affairs or trade secrets or corporations, partnerships, trusts, and individual proprietorships pursuant to KSA 75-4319B4. We will return to this room at 6:16. All those in favor?
6:26.
What did I say? 6:26. I got it written down. 6:26. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll be back here.
Okay, in attendance will be myself, Deputy City Manager Sean Hennessy, Legal Counsel Patrick Hoffman, and Jamie Hall.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Hopkins.
Okay, we're back in session, and we have no action to take on that one, but we are going to go into a second executive session. I'll look at staff for time. Let's go 15. We're 10 to...
We've never done anything
Yeah.
in 10.
Okay.
All right, we're all here. I move the City Commission recess into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss the subject of legal advice regarding economic development incentives based upon the need for consultation with an attorney for the public body, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2. Possible action to follow. So we will resume regular session at 6:43. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move into recess into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss the subject of legal advice regarding economic development incentives based upon the need for consultation with an attorney for the public body, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2. We will resume the meeting at 6:43 in this room. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
In attendance will be City Attorney Patrick Hoffman and Deputy City Manager Sean Hennessy and myself.
This is
Far away.
I think he just wanted to sit with me.
Okay, we're back in session. We have no action to take. I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll see you in 2 weeks.